I know that we're going to try and wrap up, so I'm going to ask all of us to go down the line. I'll start with you, Erin, just with what do we take away from here? Where do we go from here in improving, the way that we deal with victims and our compassion towards them, the legal system, what we need to publicize, whatever you want to say as we move forward. What's the takeaway, if you will?
So the takeaway for me was really interesting because I'm watching the show and I'm starting to hear people around me's reactions. So it's like the deep breath starts. It's like everybody's trying to do the soothing breath because it's so uncomfortable, and then we get a little angry and then we laugh with a little tension when the tension breaks. So, and what I was noticing was, okay, that's where we're digging deep, and that's where we're now seeing context, and everybody's sitting in this discomfort for a minute, for an hour, and we're in it, and we're all feeling it, but it's okay. Like no one got up and ran, right? So that's the takeaway, is that hashtags are great for spreading news, but they don't replace context and complexity, which is what we need to sit with. And we need to sit with the discomfort of all these conversations in their depth. That's my takeaway.
I was going to say empathy. I was going to say, really looking, in the political climate that we're in across all topics, there really is just such a lack of empathy, which makes it so easy to hate the other, right? And so, I thought one of the things that I thought when I first heard of the play, and that they would be changing gender roles but not the pronouns, I thought that was really fascinating to me, because it really forces a level of empathy, I think, through the person who's reading the part. And I 100% agree. It's sitting with the discomfort and talking about that and trying to get through the complexities of these issues is definitely something I'll take away.
I think the two ones that I'll leave here with, first, support the survivors in your life. You may not know how many survivors there are in your life, but that's where having things like information about Casa Myrna or about BARC or about the other support services can be valuable. Glad to hear that in this show, we're a pernicious influence on changing evidence. So that's one really basic, easy one. Grab a magnet, slap it on your fridge. It may mean that someone that didn't know if they could trust you to talk to you about it might see that and decide that they can, and that's real. And the second one, and this is a much sort of bigger, more confusing one, but the fact that this was an Israeli court trial, and that this was 10 years ago, and yet it has so many similarities and probably felt pretty topical to so many of us, means that you've got two different legal systems, two different cultures, two different languages, one similar problem. That doesn't happen by accident. What is the power structure that exists such that multiple cultures have this same problem and are dealing with the same issue, right? That means it's not just a weird idiosyncratic thing that happens in this. This happens to all of us. And so that big takeaway is, how are we supporting that power structure? We're all doing it a little tiny bit inadvertently, and are there ways that we can take little hatchets to the logs that keep that up? Because if we can, then maybe we stop seeing that, and it starts being a lot more confusing to us because we're not used to seeing that kind of stuff anymore. But that's long work. It's a lot longer than 1 year of a hashtag. That's decades-long stuff.
I think one of the things I want to make sure that everyone recognizes too is that the system there need to be multiple systems and multiple ways for survivors to be able to speak out and to get justice however they define it for themselves. Most survivors don't want to get engaged in the criminal justice system. They want nothing to do with it, in part because it doesn't work well, but they often just don't even want to participate in that. And so I think there have to be other ways for survivors to get justice and to be safe and to be able to speak out and doing it without judgment and without shame. And I think one of those ways is for having productions like this and bringing it forward and having people talk about it. The fact that almost everybody who was here to watch it actually stayed and is part of this discussion, I think that's really telling and it's really important. And I think that just that to me says, okay, we're going a step further. And every day it'll be a little bit further and a little bit further. But I think just for us to recognize that, yeah, we have to have empathy and that we have to create multiple ways for survivors to be able to speak their truth and get justice the way they need it.
And on that note, if you haven't been talking about these issues, consider this a jumping off point to start talking about these issues. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you to our panel. think Guy had said earlier that we're going to go outside for a drink to celebrate Israeli Stage's anniversary. We can continue to talk and answer questions. Thanks again for being here. Bye.